Guys, how are we doing today? So today we have an absolute incredible man joining us. His name is Mr. Mark Colbourne. So Colbourne is a Paralympian, and he ended up winning a gold medal in the 2012 Olympics. But he's got an incredible story behind him, and he's going to share this with us today. So I'm really excited now, for guys, that you can actually listen to Mark's story, and I'm sure you're going to take so much away from it as well. So Mark, thank you very much for joining us and for being part of this and sharing your journey with us.
Yes, my pleasure. And obviously, hi to everybody, and thank you very much for pressing play. And it genuinely is my privilege, my guest to be with you today. So I really appreciate your time. And hopefully over the next sort of, 20, 25 minutes, you'll be able to maybe just take away some of the key messages and key principles that, I've applied to my life and how it's helped me to go almost from zero to hero, Stephen,
Yeah, definitely.
So if it's okay with you, I'll share my screen and, we'll obviously get down to it, and I can obviously share my story, share some key principles, and certainly share some key messages for everybody that's listening today. So just to let everybody know, as Stephen said quite rightly, my name is Mark Colbourne. It's Mark Colbourne MBE. I was awarded the Member of the British Empire for my services to sport, which we'll come on to, a little bit later on, in this video. So the first thing to understand is I'm actually an international speaker, but I'm an international speaker with a difference. As Stephen said, I was very privileged to become a Paralympian in 2012. So what I wanted to just share with you today is some information on key messages, key principles that have worked for me, all my life, and obviously how I can help you to improve your life. Okay, so let me just share with you, first of all, where my journey first started. My journey first started in South Wales a long time ago, and I guess I was very privileged to have an amazing dad or father, and my dad was known as Mr. Nice Guy. And as you can see from this picture, I had a great, upbringing, a great childhood, and my dad was a true gentleman, and he was known as Mr. Nice Guy because he genuinely was, a true inspiration to me. He was my go-to guy. He was my hero, and somebody that I always looked up to. He always guided me in the right way, shall we say. Now, as a child, you can imagine, I had lots of passions at the time. Chocolate was one of them, Stephen, as you know. Sport was definitely a big driver for me because I truly enjoyed the feeling of moving, the excitement of the endorphins, playing lots of sport as a child, which I suppose later on in life, I was so grateful, that I always kept really fit and really healthy. Which is very important. Certainly now in my life, I'm in almost the second half of my life, and I feel very healthy at the age of 49, and hopefully other people can obviously take those messages away with them. So when I was growing up in South Wales, one of the passions that I had apart from sport was the feeling to maybe one day become a paragliding pilot. I wanted that Peter Pan moment, Stephen. I genuinely wanted the opportunity to start to fly, because in my opinion, there's almost no other feeling like it, And if you look closely in the center of this picture, underneath the blue paragliding canopy, that was me. I'd qualified as a paragliding pilot. I was living and working in South Wales, and life was great. Life was great. I worked really hard because my dad always told me, just continue to give 100% in what you do, because the journey of life, as we know, is very short, and it's important to gather memories and experiences and have a great team around you. So my dream at that point was to start to fly, and I lived out that dream. I became a paragliding pilot, but unfortunately, about 5.5 hours after this picture was taken, and this picture was taken on the 2nd of May 2009, so it was a bank holiday weekend in the UK, in Wales, where I live. And unfortunately, 5.5 hours after this picture was taken, My canopy, while I was flying about 40 feet above the ridge of this, beautiful picturesque part of South Wales that you see, while I was flying above the top ridge, my canopy unfortunately collapsed just through a complete freak of nature. I flew into a crosswind, couldn't see it, didn't feel it. It was just there. And as my canopy collapsed, you can imagine, I'm 40 feet above the ground. There's only one place I'm going, straight down. So after 2 seconds of falling, I hit the floor, feet first, thankfully. And, didn't realize for one moment, I suppose how painful it was going to be, because within half a second, the wind actually dragged me across the floor. And I got dragged for probably about 100 meters, Stephen. And it was not nice. Trust me, it was not nice. But, I was attached to the canopy with a harness. I obviously had a safety helmet on, and I was fully conscious. So I remember even quite vividly now, tumbling, for probably the best part of maybe 15 or 20 seconds. As I'm lying on the floor, staring up at the beautiful blue sky you can see above me, in South Wales that afternoon, I genuinely thought, what have I done? Because I'm lying on the floor, I couldn't feel my legs, I was completely paralyzed. And the first feeling I had was denial. What have I done? I'm not in any pain at this point, because it's a crazy feeling when you have a near fatal crash that your body shuts down and stops the brain feeling the pain, And the gentleman you see in the bottom left-hand corner of the picture, he saw me crash. He looked down, he came to my side, he radioed for the air ambulance. And, the air ambulance turned up probably in about 10 or 11 minutes. So, I'm very grateful that, this amazing charity in South Wales were there to save my life that afternoon. So, for the people watching this video, just picture the scene. I've been airlifted off this hillside that afternoon. I was, flown to the hospital, and I had an X-ray that evening. I had an MRI scan, and to be told that night that at the age of 40, unfortunately, I'd broken my back. I genuinely thought my life was over, Stephen. That afternoon I'd gone from living the dream, being in this euphoric state of just having all these feelings, to literally, hours later, being in a hospital bed, totally paralyzed from my waist down, to then be told that night that I'd broken my back. And I'll never forget staring at the doctor, just in disbelief, thinking, this amazing machine we walk around in, I thought I was invincible. I genuinely did. But it just comes to show that this $1 trillion machine that we walk around in is not invincible, So that night when I was told that I broke my back, I almost disbelieved it. But it was only when the actual doctor showed me, what I'd done. And this is an X-ray. This is an example. This is not my X-ray, by the way. This is an example of what can happen to this amazing machine that we walk around in. And I say this all the time as an international speaker. Take care of your body, because you only have one. Feed it the best food you can. Exercise, hydrate, look after it. Look after it, because it is priceless. So that evening, lying in that hospital bed, just thinking to myself, this is probably the end. This is probably the end of the existing life that I have, my sporting life, my working life. What was going to happen? And I was almost in a state of shock, from thinking what was going to happen next. And I'll never forget, I was on my back for 94 days, just staring at the ceiling, not knowing what was going to go on, after, I had this spinal operation. So after having 6 titanium pins in my back, through T10, T11, and T12, which is the vertebrae I broke, I genuinely started to fear my future. I was really scared. And I'll never forget saying to the doctor when they finally hoisted me out of bed, why is it that my feet don't work? Because I couldn't understand why I couldn't walk, And he explained about my disability. You know, my feet, I've got drop foot in both feet, so I've got no push or pull. And I thought to myself, well, this is probably the end. You know, this is probably the end of my life as I know it. But I think it was probably after maybe 4.5, nearly 5 months. My dad said to me, you know, you're going to get through this because you're a winner, you know? And he was right, because then when I left hospital and I started cycling, you know, albeit with a disability, I knew straight away that functionally I could actually do something, albeit with a disability. So I started cycling, you know, because I could. It was difficult. It was frustrating. I was very anxious. I was very wobbly on my feet with my crutches, but I just made the decision to do it. You know, just go and do it. And if I failed, so what? But at least I tried, you know. So in 2010, I was invited to take part in a charity cycle ride for the air ambulance who treated me on the day of my crash. And I'll never forget the first day was from Cardiff to mid Wales, and it was 84 miles. It was a pretty tough day of cycling, you know, with a disability, but nothing was going to stop me. I had to do this, you know, because these people saved my life. I wanted to give back. So this chiropractor said to me when I met him, you know, what's wrong with your legs? So I explained I broke my back, lower leg paralysis. And he said to me, are you training for the Paralympics? I said, no, that's 2 years ago. Why would I train, you know, for the Paralympics? He said, I think you should. I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that I've aspired for all my life, to become an athlete, to prove to myself that I could achieve something great, but I'd never had the opportunity. And it was, unfortunately, through breaking my back, that the seed was planted. And I said to this gentleman, thank you very much, you know, for planting this seed. And maybe, just maybe I can get to the Paralympic Games in London in 2 years' time. So we finished the ride for the week. I went home and said to my parents, I'm going to start training for the Paralympics. And my mother said to me, oh, good luck. What would you like for food? Because my mother was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And my dad was like, Mark, just go back to work. Just forget this Paralympic dream. Just go back to work. And I'll never forget, Stephen, I stepped forward and I said to my dad, I'm going to have to disagree with you. Because all my life you taught me, if you have a dream, never give up. Never give up. And I'm going to do this, with or without you. So don't bet against me, because I'm serious. And you're either going to see me in London with that flag, you know, representing my country, or you're going to see me dead on the side for trying. And he turned to my mother, Margaret, and he said, Margaret, have a word with your son. I think he's lost it. And he walked away, Stephen. So my point is this, that if you do have a dream and you want to aspire for something and you truly love it, don't let anybody stand in your way. So I started training for the London 2012 Paralympic Games. I didn't go back to work. I signed on job seekers allowance. I started, you know, being paid benefits just so I could train, you know, and that's what I did every day. Every day I just trained, slept, ate the food, you know, kept healthy, kept fit, and just continued to train. And I'll never forget my coach at the time, a gentleman, a wonderful gentleman called Neil Smith from Disability Sport Wales. I said to Neil, how do I get to the Paralympics? You know, this guy had trained Paralympic athletes before world champions, Paralympic champions. And then he obviously hands them over to British Cycling, where British Cycling then as the facilitator take them on to the games. So Neil said these words to me, just keep repeating the process and let the numbers win the argument. Because I was 41 years of age, Stephen. You know, I was probably a little bit old. However, in my book, age is just a number on your birthday card. Okay, so take that one away with you, you know. So I started training, and I'll never forget reading this statement that, you know, Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players of all time, has said these words, I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something. But what I cannot accept is not trying, because I knew I had to give it a go. Otherwise, I was never going to get there, you know? And after lots of training, you know, almost a year, 12 months worth of training, British Cycling finally gave me an opportunity to race with 5 races in 5 countries, and I came back with 5 medals. So it just comes to prove that age is just a number on your birthday card, okay? So over that period of 2011 into 2012, you know, I did lots of training, about 2,000 miles a month. And this is an example to show the listeners and the watchers and the viewers, you know, what 2,000 miles a month actually really looks like. It's Cardiff to Moscow, Stephen. It's a long way with only half your legs working. Now, that was bad enough in itself. But what was even a bigger sacrifice is that I had to give up chocolate. I had to give up alcohol. I had to sacrifice so much in my life to become part of the elite, if that makes sense, you know? So it was a great time, you know, it was a great moment, lots of training, you know, lots of joy. And fortunately, when I was selected for the World Track Championships in February 2012, my dad unfortunately passed away with lung cancer and stomach cancer. And you can imagine, it was probably the biggest curveball that I've ever been thrown. Okay, this is my hero. Okay, this is my go-to guy. This is my, you know, my probably like a brother I never had. My dad was always there for me, you know, and I was always there for him, you know. So to lose this gentleman one day before I was racing, you know, in the World Championships, it was heartbreaking. However, I know in my heart of hearts that my dad would want me to focus and start to think logically, not emotionally, you know, because, you know, I'm representing my country here, 63 million people, you know, and they want you to win, of course. So I picked myself up, I focused on the process, and the next day raced, you know, in the World Finals in Los Angeles. I was very proud to win the rainbow jersey, to become a world champion in my sport of cycling in the 3-kilometer pursuit. So picture the scene. I've won the World Championships. I've come back from Los Angeles. I've attended my dad's funeral, and it was heartbreaking, you know, but I'll never forget my dad taught me as a young kid the process of life. You know, we're born, we live, and then we pass on. The most important part is in the middle. It's what you do now is how you create the legacy when you pass on, you know? So for people watching, live for today. Do what you really love, do what you really enjoy, okay? And do it now. Plan well, prepare well, but do it. Don't put it off, because when you get to later life and you're 70, 75, 80 years of age, you won't have the time to do it. As young adults, you know, as young teenagers watching this video, you have time, okay? Go and try things. Go and fail, because you can always do it again, and sometimes again. So, you know, don't sit on your laurels. Go and do it, okay? Go and do it. So I remember coming back from Los Angeles and feeling so lonely, so rejected, you know, within myself. And I'll never forget my mother saying to me, "So what are you going to do now? You've won the World Championships. You know, we've lost my dad to stomach cancer. What are you going to do?" I said, "I'll probably just give up." She said, "Yeah, are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, I've won the World Championships. You know, I'll just give up." And she said these words to me, "Stephen, but what would your dad want you to do?" I said, "He'd probably want me to carry on. He would probably want me to carry on because I was thinking emotionally, not logically. Go to the games and win that medal for your dad. That's all I needed. That was the game changer. That was my reason to train and ride again." So I'll never forget, you know, training for the next 7 months as hard as I could, getting myself into the best shape possible to then be selected for the London 2012 Paralympic Games. And for people watching this video, you probably remember you know, the 2012 Olympics, you know, that epic summer of sport. And it was a great warm-up for the Paralympics, Stephen. You know, it really, really was. So I remember going into the games, elated, joyful, obviously missing my dad. But I had this fear in the back of my mind. What if I fail? I've just given up 2 years of my life. I've given up so many sacrifices. What if I fail? And this is the advice I was given. Going into these races, was I going to give 99% effort and just almost try and get through it on a wing and a prayer and hope I win? Or was I going to give it 100%? Because in life, whenever you give something 100%, you have to, as human beings, you have to accept the outcome. Because you cannot do more than your best. 101% doesn't exist. You can only give your best. So my advice to people watching this video is always be the best you can be, but you may not necessarily be the best. You may end up with a silver or a bronze, but just be the best you can be and be proud of being the best you can be. Okay? So that was my fear going into the games. What if I fail? But I knew if I gave 100%, I could come away with joyful, you know, feeling to be proud knowing I've given 100%. Okay? So going into the games, I raced in 2 races to start with, the kilo and the 10-mile time trial, and I won 2 silver medals. I was very proud, very privileged to represent my country, to represent Paralympics GB. However, in the race that I was the world champion in, which is the 3-kilometer pursuit, the morning of the 31st of August 2012, a young lad from China broke the world record in my event. How rude. And I'll never forget my coach saying to me, Mark, you're going to have to go out. You're going to have to break this world record just to get into the final. So I said to my coach, Tom, leave this to me. So that morning, I broke the world record by 7 seconds, absolutely smashed it out of the park, just to get into the final, okay? Because I wanted that medal. I didn't want another silver. I already had 2. I didn't want another silver. I wanted that gold medal. I wanted to create that legacy, to prove to other people, if you continue to give 100%, even at the age of 42, you can live out your dream, you know? So that afternoon, after warming up, ready for the final, you know, never forget standing in the velodrome, 7,000 people in the Queen Elizabeth Olympic velodrome, just thinking to myself, my dad would never believe this. My dad would never believe it. What if I'd listened to my dad? What if I'd gone back to work, Stephen? The world of cycling would have never have known I existed. Hundreds of thousands of people all across the world who have been inspired by what I've achieved would never have known I existed. So my question to the, to the listeners, to the viewers, who wants to see what happens next? So what I'd like to show you is my Paralympic gold medal final, my 3-kilometer race. It's against our friend from China, Yang Zi, who was 18 years younger than me. So technically, he should have kicked my backside, Stephen, you know? So this guy who is literally 3 seconds faster than me over the first 4 laps, my coach said to me, Mark, you're going to have to go out really quick. You're going to have to accelerate out of that gate like you've never ridden that bike before. And this is what I said to him, Stephen. When that gun goes off, I'm going to ride that bike like I've stolen it. And I'm from South Wales, so that's easy. So hopefully the listeners and the watchers and the viewers can enjoy this race, okay? So let's press play. And keep your eye on Yang Zi, because he is pretty quick. But just remember, if you continue to give 100%, you never know what's going to happen. And remember, I broke the world record that morning. This is 4 hours later, okay? So enjoy the video, and I'll let Stephen press play for you.